Welcome to the ZimmCast, a program dedicated to bringing you what's new in agricultural marketing. The ZimmCast is the official podcast of AgWired and hosted by Chuck and Cindy Zimmerman.
Hello and welcome to the ZimmCast. I'm Chuck Zimmerman. The beginning of February was a very busy time for us here at ZimmCom. Although Cindy and I are not traveling to conferences and shows for work, we've had some great talent on site while we gathered their photos and interviews to create virtual newsrooms. These were the 2026 CattleCon, working with Stephen Orr, Paramount Broadcasting, which is all ag all day, and the 2026 CIRB Annual Meeting with Laura McNamara. You can find these virtual ag newsrooms on agnewswire.com. These posts are available to all ag media who want or need an image or an interview, and there's more to come. We're using photos and interviews and other audio as individual posts on agwire.com. If you subscribe or just search, you can find plenty of information online too. So let's turn to the Crop Insurance and Reinsurance Bureau annual meeting for an interview on AI in agriculture. Laura interviewed Willie Vogt, Ag Technology Observer and good friend, about his topic and presentation.
I'm Laura McNamara at the 2026 CIRB Annual Meeting in Indian Wells, California. With me, joining me now is Willie Vogt, Ag Tech Observer, who just presented on AI in ag. Agriculture has usually been an early driver of innovation in technology, and Willie's going to share more with us about what he shared specifically on AI.
So basically, good to talk to you, and it's exciting to be here at CIRB. It's my first time, but you can get me to Palm Springs anytime. But the whole concept that I talked about in detail was we talked about the hardware and the software of agriculture and what's changing there. And then we dig into what's autonomy versus automation. We all have automation. Farmers have done auto steer. I mean, my favorite story was at CES in 2019. They were showing a track they'd done out there to media from tech media, and they were asking, so when are you introducing this? And Deere was saying, well, we introduced it in 95. So that was a shock to them. But the whole concept of where ag is leading that, and then where AI is coming in, we're gathering so much information, and now we can do something with it. Before we thought, I got this pile of information. AI allows us to synthesize that information and make decisions on the fly, real time. For example, See and Spray sprayer, or the carbon robotics laser weed control system. They can see the weed and shoot the weed, or you've got other technologies doing the same thing. And then you take the AI and you use it in seed development, where you can know how pair and inbreds are going to perform in the final cross, those kinds of technologies. It's just exciting to me where we can pull AI and what we know in agriculture. Look, agriculture's collected more information than almost any other industry. We've got piles of it. I talk about, Winfield United and their big pile of Answer Farm data. They're starting to bring that stuff together. They're already using it in some of their tools. You think about that and it's like, well, I can be better at this. And then you can make a small farmer could even have something on his smartphone help make decisions rather than always, have even like a big farmer maybe not having a consultant because he's got a consultant in a box, that kind of thing.
Yeah, up to this point, that was kind of the conundrum of technology, is so much data, it was overwhelming, and you couldn't apply it even though you had it.
That's exactly right. And when you think about, okay, I've got 10 years of yield data in my combine, but I also have 10 years of as planted data and as sprayed data. What does it all mean? Well, you bring it all together. Well, I can kind of see trends, but with AI, if there's aggregated data across a neighborhood or a region, then we can pull that together and say, oh, if this, then that, and it's different for every farm. Or we may eventually get down to hybrid and fungicide choices because these class of hybrids work better with these classes of strobies versus that class of triazoles. It sounds silly, but if it can be done, and it can be done in a simple, inexpensive way and make me add 10 or 15 bushels an acre. And you look at the interplant technology that allows you to see a fungus hit a crop before and allow you to treat it a week or two earlier because you're in the path of it and you can spray, and there's good sprays to preventive sprays, not just treatment sprays. That's the kind of technology we need.
Well, and it was even interesting what you said about lasers. You said there's no weed resistance to lasers, right?
God, I hope not. Yeah, Carbon Robotics they've been using lasers to kill weeds, and it's a fascinating. They have an automated version, an autonomous version, I mean. They also have a tractor-drawn version, but it sees the weed just as other Sense and Act technologies, Bosch and BASF have technology like that, and other sprayer company, other companies have that. It sees the weed and sprays the weed only. This one doesn't see the weed, it shoots the weed when it sees it. And that's pretty exciting. But like I said, when we have weeds that are resistant to lasers, we have bigger problems.
And you mentioned something about a new technology that's still being developed about possibly being able to identify the disease with the way it shows up.
So Interplant is already able to spot the fungus. And then they put a person on the ground to say, hey, what is it? Because they fluoresce, what is it? So I can go in and go, oh, look, it's white mold. Boom, send out an alert. Or, oh, it's SDS, sudden death syndrome. Okay, we're not going to tell you anything because you can't do anything about it. But it might be something, frog eye, stick, okay. But they were saying that when they were looking at the way the plant fluoresced, it may be possible, they're still exploring this, that how the plant fluoresces may tell them what the fungus is. That would be epic because it would be even faster. Or the ability to just know what the problem is. Like I said, SDS, you wouldn't do anything. So that kind of thing. Right now it's only in soybean plants because I was talking to him. I said, when are you going to get it in corn? Because wouldn't it be great to get a tar spot alert? Because that's such a big deal. Or southern rust, if you can do something like that. There's a lot of interest in that technology. But right now it's just soybeans.
And you mentioned broadband access. So is that kind of a barrier, is access to all these different technologies?
It can be if you don't have broadband. I mean, when you look at telemetry from your tractor and knowing where your equipment is, you need to have good access. Now, most people have good 4G, and that's really all you need. But the other side of it is getting data from my tractor back into my house, into my office, or up to the cloud so I can get it can be a hindrance. And if you're in a black hole of internet, that's going to slow you down in terms of getting your information, making decisions. But the bigger deal is I like telemetry because I can track I'm trying to track a lot of equipment. I've got 2 people in the field with a planter and a sprayer, or I've got 2 people in the field with a combine and let's go to the combine grain cart. When are they running out of fuel? When do they need to be tended? One will need to be tended sooner than the other. Well, the tractor will tell me that. The combine will tell me that. And then there's other things you can do with remote display access where I can pull up displays and see who's doing what with whom. I mean, I've had farmers that will actually look at RDA and see that a guy's running the tractor at too high an RPM because if they were using the CVT transmission and running it and let the machine do the thinking, they'd be running at 1,500 RPM and saving fuel. But they're running it at 2,200 RPM like dear old dad used to do it. And they call the guy and say, fix it. And then they can watch the tachometer go down and just make the machine more efficient. That's the other thing. We've got all this technology in these machines. A number of sensors in the equipment will tell me if there's a problem, and we're figuring out how to make that work too. But yeah, we need broadband access for all that.
Is AI playing a role in helping solve that?
But not solve the internet. I mean, that's a physical issue. And Starlink is a big issue. A lot of farmers are putting in Starlink. They had a $395 deal. That was a big deal. You could get a nice thing and have Starlink and be great. I think a lot of people jumped on that. That's really good. Well, that gets you internet to your house. That means you can get your JD Ops stuff faster. And the JD Link system, I'm just using Deere as an example. AFS has a good system, PLM from New Holland, and then PTX deal with. They all have systems that send stuff to the cloud. They've mostly worked this out, but you want to be able to pull it in fast and make decisions, and having better internet's always good. Also, it keeps the family happy because Netflix works a lot better on a better internet connection.
You also kind of brought up biologicals and their role with AI technology.
Well, it's not just AI. Biologicals are almost not an AI. Well, they're an AI from an analysis making decisions about what could work. It's a complex issue. I mean, you're working to bring in a new biological into a biome that doesn't want it there. So the companies that are succeeding in that are having good luck in pushing past, whether you talk about Corteva's Nutrition, Pivot Bio's product, some of the other, I talked about the LFR product from FMC, they're having good success with they've got an insecticide teamed with a biofungicide, and that works really well. We're getting there. It's just not an easy task. And it's a living thing. how can it be transported? How does it need to be stored? All those things have to be handled in the way farmers work with this stuff.
And I remember at the beginning of your presentation, you even asked, are you going to be having robots? Are robots going to be working for you now?
Well, not yet, but CES had a ton of them. And I could think of, again, the Aeon robot that won the award, won the innovation award at CES, was for hazardous situations. So maybe you put the robot into the grain bin, rather do a grain weevil, or what's the situation, or heavy lifting, that kind of stuff. The opportunity for robots in personal life is going to take a while, but I see opportunity where, again, dangerous situations where you shouldn't have a human, you can put a robot, make it work.
Another theme you highlighted was blockchains.
Yeah, it's a complex topic. Whether it'll go anywhere, I'm not sure. There's a lot of interest in it because you can't change it. Once it's locked in there, it can't be changed. It's a locked ledger of everything that's done. And I mentioned there's a seed company because I had a farmer tell me about a seed company in Canada that's doing it. But that's perfect because seed is a separate product. It's always separate. So you know the field, and they can track, and you want to know everything that's done on a seed field. So blockchain allows them to keep track of that rather than however the ways you might do that with notebooks and even digital data. If it's in the blockchain, it's locked and it can't be altered. So like I said, if you sprayed something and it was 15-mile-an-hour winds and you could only really spray it when it was 10 miles an hour, sorry, that's locked in the blockchain and you can't change it. And that's something that the final buyer needs to know because there may be implications they need to understand.
So it sounds like it's useful for traceability, but not something where you need to have adaptability.
I'm not sure because it is traceability, trackability mostly, and accountability is probably the biggest example of what a blockchain can do. What did you do? Did you do it? And prove that you did it. And that's really what people are looking at.
Okay. And I know you were kind of poking fun at some of the electricity application, electric vehicle applications in farming, not quite a plausible solution for the larger operations.
Well, no, I poke fun at the idea of that I'm going to have a electric tractor in my 4,000-acre corn and soybean operation. Who knows? Somebody may have a use for it I didn't think of. I mean, the Monarch tractor is a really nice machine. They have a use and they have a place. It's where that use is and how that place is deployed. I joked about the tractor that was a demo that Deere did. They would never build that. They know that. And that was their conversation at CES about how much battery power would actually take to have a commercial tractor. And you can't. You'd have to pull the batteries along behind you, and you can't do that. And charging them. And now somebody brought up a good question here about what about solar power? Yes, solar maybe, but I don't know how many panels you would need to effectively charge a tractor in a reasonable amount of time to keep it in the field. Those are because if the whole farm goes whole solar, maybe you can do that, and that would make a difference because you'd be off the grid. But the grid is not capable, we've already figured that out, is not capable to charge 38 Tesla batteries to run a 8R tractor.
That doesn't sound very plausible at this moment. So finally, you kind of wrapped up with how to engage this change with the farmers, the growers, the producers. Yeah,
the thing there is that we shouldn't fear the technology, but we need to think about it. And I think most farmers do. I think the bigger deal is, what do I need to think about? Well, what do I already have? Is there something on my machine that I didn't buy the subscription for that maybe I could trial? Or is there something that I haven't been using I should maybe go read the manual and learn and do it? What's my support at the dealership that can help me get that? That's important. It doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, age should never be a barrier. You should be a lifelong learner. So I think that you need to say, well, when a guy tells me that they're too old, or a gal tells me they're too old to learn something, I feel bad for them because they're cutting themselves off from something. I mean, I may be too lazy to learn something, but I'm not too old to learn anything. And I think that as you engage this across the process, and I still think tech is valuable for all. You know, I shared the Syngenta example that in India they've developed a system where a guy can go to his field or a gal can go to their field and they can read a crop and see if there's a disease. So essentially it's a crop consultant in a phone. So if I'm too small to pay for a crop consultant, I can still have a crop consultant in the phone. And, you know, BASF has similar technology to this, and I know Bayer's working with their climate corporation stuff. They've got all kinds of cool tech like that, too. So anybody of any size could be engaging technology in new ways.
And piggybacking off of that, you kind of liken it to with when you need a plane out in the field versus using drones and having drones apply the application.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big change. I never thought I'd see swarms of drone spray, and they're fascinating to watch, and it's been a valuable tool. I mean, you think about it, no offense to my friends in the aerial application business, they serve an incredible role. There just aren't enough of them, and they're wonderful. They use technology that blows my mind. The GPS technology in an airplane is just crazy. But the other side of it is, I can't get them. But I can deploy a guy or a gal can set up a system with 3 or 4 drones, a tank, and pull it all in one trailer, go to the farm, do the job, and head down the road and go to the next farm, never needing to worry about where a runway is, never needing to worry about changing the way, and maybe run over to the dealership to refill the tank and then go out and do something. You know what I mean? It's like they can deploy more efficiently, and again gets back to the compaction discussion that will drive some people to go to smaller tools and equipment, is that the drones don't touch the ground. And a high boy sprayer is great if you got to get in, but you're running compaction again, and anytime you can stay off the ground at the later part of the crop is better for the field, and it goes back to regenerative ag and soil health.
And just kind of circling back, we are at the CIRB Annual Meeting, so circling back to insurance and how this impacts the insurance providers, the AIPs and reinsurance, how do you think AI is going to play a role?
Well, I think they're already, I mean, you look at what Farmers Hale's doing with precision ag data. They actually have more accurate, they're gathering accurate yield data to do claims with. It's actual data. They're not doing any estimates. They actually will have a pile. I mean, that's one example that I know of. That's just a simple data point. But the other side of it is, as they look at analyzing damage, prevent plant, claims, what will we learn in this industry by and the industry will be a leader in some of that. The major players will be a leader working with RMA to explore where AI can be deployed to just analyze claims and analyze, well, obviously fraud is often an issue too, and how do you analyze for those as well? But doesn't happen often. But the other side of it is even just helping a farmer make a decision for what I'm this size farm, I have these crops, I've had this history. What's the best plan for my operation given and give me 2 or 3 options? Well, an agent can do that, but the AI can help the agent do a better job of really customizing that approach to the farm. I think that's what will eventually happen.
AI helping the agent, but I also wonder too if the farmer or the grower or the producer can demonstrate that they've really embraced and adapted AI into their procedures and operations, if that makes them more suitable for better coverage.
It's possible, because especially if they're doing things to take on abiotic stresses and things to produce a crop, so that they're, everything, we look at reliable common practice. That's important. And if they're using biologicals, or if they're using sense and act technology to use less chemicals but get a better crop and do different things to keep their costs down and be better at raising their crop, that doesn't hurt in the long run. That the agent, the AIP, knows the farmer's done everything they can to raise the crop. Now, God has come in and done something else. You know how that works. But the short answer is, I've done everything I can. That's why I can file this claim, and here's all my data to show that I've done the right thing all the way through the process. That may become an issue. I don't know. I'm not going to judge on that. Different talk, not me.
Okay. On that note, anything else you want to add that you feel like we didn't cover?
No, we covered it all, but I just want to say this is a great meeting to be at. They're learning a lot of stuff here, and it's always fun for me to get out and talk about agriculture to people who are on the edge of what's going on in this business and help them understand what farmers are dealing with or considering in their own operations.
Okay, thank you so much for your time today, Willie Vogt. All right, I'm Laura McNamara at the 2026 CIRB Annual Meeting in Indian Wells, California.
Speaking about AI, there's a lot of information showing how fast AI is developing and what it may change how communications and marketing are managed. These include agriculture and all industries. I've spent most of my career learning and using the latest gadgets and internet-based programs, not to count social media and on and on. After over 40 years, I don't know how much I will need to know about AI. How about you? Well, that's the ZimmCast for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the ZimmCast, the official podcast of AgWired. Check us out at www.agwired.com to find out what's new in agricultural marketing.